It's easy to be nice when things are going your way, isn't it? The true nature of a person can be found when trouble erupts. In these moments, a lot can be revealed. Are you a fighter or a coward? Welcome to the world of Nollywood, a black and white district devoid of all colour and expression, where art has been banned. The place is controlled by the coldest motherfucker there is, Chapman. The citizens work, sleep, repeat. The rebel group known as Jar Society live away from the gaze of Nollywood, exist in whatever artistic way they can. Their leader has been poisoned by one of Chapman's spies. Her daughter Ataniel has just heard the news and is seeking instant revenge, followed by her mother's most trusted lieutenant, Jackson, who is bound by more than just duty. We begin with Chapman's spy reporting on the assassination attempt.
Killing off the rebels from within was a feat indeed. The amatoxin, the amatoxin, the amatoxin, put in their leader's tea, in their leader's tea. Did you leave anything that can trace you back to me? All clear, I was unseen. My lady, I have for you a treat. A man was singing in the street. Bring me his tongue when you're done. I want to see. Losing control, those rebels will fold. I will have no art in their homes, exist in colorless zones. Do all I can to quell the past.
Just freeze. I can't let you.
This was their last resort, assigning her in her dog. All's left are the rats. They scan through the fence, watching their movements. The game's being hacked. In this misery, a stench of apathy, catastrophe. I'll fill the lands with fury. Chapman's removal of color and art, and from all arts, voices removed from the stars. She'll get what she wants if we stay in this spot. The resistance is done. Now my mother, our leader, is gone. There can only be one outcome. I'll leave Chapman's head on her throne.
What can we do if it is so? This fight has its roads before me and you. You're fighting a war, but where is your sword?
Chapman's head on her throne.
This is what Chapman will want. Police at the door. Soon you'll be joining your mother. red light. I haven't seen anything that bright for most of my life. The lights were tamed. I can't go through this again.
So vivid. Who told you it's called red?
Red in something I read. It was a long time ago. It could be a lie. In so long, thought it was a myth. What does it mean, just here in the street?
Means approach it with ease.
But Daniel, the rebel spirit, into a dream, the force that shakes me. My mind is to the cause, but my heart is always yours.
What is this?
I think a collection of
that absolutely flew by, didn't it? Me back again. For those of you who have just joined, my name is Bill Banks Jones. I'm artistic director of Tete and joined by one of the three of our panel, Sarah, who wrote the music. That was really flew by, Sarah, actually, that time. It was fantastic. And this was one of three pieces put together by groups of youth from the Royal Academy of Music, including Yanni, who wrote one of the other ones. Let me just try and track down Sophie. Presumably, Sophie Patterson is the Sophie in the waiting room, and she's not. Yeah, okay, great. There, you should be able to join us too now, Sophie. Um, and there's a lot to talk about in that piece. Hi. So Sophie was the stage manager on the piece. So we've got a fantastic panel here of different viewpoints. The friend from down the corridor who co-produced was Yanni, the stage manager, Sophie, and the composer, Sarah. But let's start with you, Sarah. Where did it all come from? Where did it all begin?
Well, this is my second chamber opera, and it was an arranged marriage of sorts with Ade Bademosi, who was my librettist. We met at the Royal Academy Opera Makers Project, and it took us a while to land on an idea we could both go with, but what he came up with was a really big story to tell in 15 minutes and a lot of really great music I could write and very strong characters, which I loved responding to. And that's how it began. We, Addie and I collaborated on the final draft of the libretto, and I wrote it mostly at my boyfriend's kitchen table in Connecticut over winter break. He is here, so thanks for letting me use your kitchen table, Matthias.
Wow. And how I can't begin to think how you managed to focus sitting writing at somebody else's kitchen table. Are you able to write with a lot of distraction around you?
He brings me tea and coffee, so
Oh, so that helps. That helps. It's yeah, it is a colossal story. It really is absolutely huge. Ah, a little reminder down below. If anybody would like to ask the panel questions, please type them into the chat and I shall pass them on for you. I beg your pardon, I should have said that at the beginning. As you can tell, informality is the key to these events, and we're certainly succeeding in that right now. We seem to have lost Sophie again, which is a shame. I'd be really interested to hear the stage. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Curious to hear about stage managing, like, because we've not had a stage manager on a panel before. So tell us your involvement. How did you get roped in and what did you end up doing?
Well, so I'm actually a singer at the Academy, and I met Sarah doing an internship at a different opera festival, and I was doing something different. But I have a background in stage management, and so when Sarah was talking to me and saying that she really needed someone and they were struggling to find someone because that's not really a course that's offered at the Academy, I said I would happily step in since it was a smaller project, but I've actually never worked as the stage manager. I've always been an assistant, so it was a bit interesting to hop in. And I only had like 5 days with this production with all three operas, and in 5 days I had to learn I had to track all of the props, so I understood where the props would be able to sit backstage. Also making sure I understood people's entrances and exits, so that writing the risk assessment with Sarah. But I was really lucky that I hopped into a project that was so well managed before I got there. Sarah and Yenny, in particular, did a fantastic job of organizing, and I didn't have to deal with the scheduling, which is something I normally would have to do. And like all the correspondence was happening seamlessly before I got there, so it was an easier production to get into. And especially because there weren't very many resources, having Adam as well was really useful for helping move things and just having people that were, yeah, he helped a lot with that. Like, what a blessing to have people who are so willing to help make sure that everything ran smoothly. I even had one of the singers commented and said, I don't know why you were stressing so much. Everything went, it was going to be fine anyways. And I was like, it's only fine because there was one person who is stressing. So, and I'm glad I could be that so that everyone could focus on what they needed to do instead of worrying about the things that I worried about. Yeah.
Lovely to hear from this triple bill. What a happy collaboration it clearly was. You're all saying that, and there was a lot of you involved, so that's quite special. That's quite an achievement. Question for Matt Cyber for Sarah. Hi, Sarah. You mentioned this is your second chamber opera. I'm wondering if you could talk about your first chamber opera you did and how that experience informed your choices for this piece. Good question.
Hi, Matthias. Thank you for that question. Um, so my first chamber opera was actually a one-woman show, and I was sort of doing everything from um, composing it, and then I sang the title and only role in that short opera called Liking Myself. It was about a social media influencer who goes a bit mad by the end, as people do in opera. So I was producing, composing, and um, doing all the hats. And I think the main thing that I learned from that experience was one, I really love writing opera. I found it a really enjoyable experience, and I loved working with a librettist. Having that sense of structure in composition already set up is really rewarding and really great way into the process. And the other thing I learned was I needed more people involved, that opera is a collaborative art, and trying to do it all myself would be a real disservice to what I composed and how I might sing. So I was really lucky to have people like co-producers, and especially Sophie, who is such a talented stage manager who hit all of those lighting cues, and um, all the people at tete-a-tete in the cockpit. I mean, the video quality is really fantastic. I'm really impressed. And the lighting was also um, just added a whole new layer I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, I think because your stagings were clearly created originally for end on, they were rightly put quite far back so that in our thrust situation, people sitting all around all could see them all. And I think that means that the videos have a real advantage because it's played that way, but also it brings us just a little bit closer than one was in the audience. And yeah, it's very engaging. It's very gripping. I think it's pleasing as well that our videos, it's not like a Wiener Staatsoper video trying to be like a feature film, that we really work hard to give a feeling that you are at a performance and it's live and there are people watching. And actually, I think interestingly, for such a filmic piece, that works really well. There's a bit of a complicated thing going on here. Were there any movies that inspired this? Because in the back of my mind are all kinds of movie junk with like movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jude Law that are a bit this story of the science fiction place where art is forbidden. But were you inspired by any of those, or was it a new story altogether?
I think this is definitely like we definitely wanted to play with archetypes and tropes in this piece. I think that's something opera does really well is explore tropes, and actually archetypes and tropes do really well in a short piece because immediately you know you have some sort of reference, some sort of mental model to help you get into the story. Um, I mean, archetypes have been used ever since like Commedia dell'arte and all of that tradition of opera, and I think it's a really useful storytelling tactic, and I think Addie did a really good job of using archetypes in a way that would resonate with a modern audience and maybe somebody who hadn't even encountered opera before, but maybe had definitely seen action movies or dystopian dystopian films.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually, and a really good tip for anybody wanting to make their own operas. And a slightly more banal question: did you write the music the gramophone was playing, and how did that work?
Yeah, I did write that music. I closely studied this Gershwin tune called, oh gosh, what's it called? The Man I Love. And it similarly starts with this really simple Tin Pan Alley tune, and then it sort of blows up into this like three staff piano extravaganza with these huge rolled chords. And I took the structure of that tune and just walked around and tried to find something that felt appropriately Gershwin-esque. So that's what I came upon.
Oh yeah, fantastic. And Sophie, maybe you can tell us how it went from Sarah's score to the audience.
Uh, from Sarah's score to the audience. Well, it was really lovely to watch Sophie Daneman's process. This was already a staged piece, like that had been staged previously when they started rehearsals again. But watching Sophie reorient things for the cockpit theater space, there's some really beautiful and special elements about the cockpit theater. Having that raked seating is really lovely for adding an element like that all of the audience will feel connected and we don't have to worry about there being sightline issues. And then also the lighting, having that added element of lighting, I think really in particular with Sarah's piece, it had the most lighting cues of all of them and the most sound cues.
Wow.
So Sarah's piece really benefited from being in a theatrical environment. Like it really like, huh?
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, this is a really interesting answer to a poorly framed question because all I was trying to get from you is Sarah wrote a bit of music. We listened to it on a gramophone.
Oh,
Did somebody go in a studio and record it and press it
Oh,
on
I
vinyl?
that would
And
be more of a Sarah question than a Sophie question.
I just had our pianist record it at the Academy, and I specifically chose a room that was kind of noisy and used a not so good recorder so it would sound a bit distorted. And then I went into Ableton, which is a audio processing software, a digital audio workstation, and I just added the gramophone effect and did some EQ. So I cut off the frequencies from the low end, so it sounded like a kind of bad speaker was playing it.
it's quite, yeah, and but I mean, it's even more complicated than that because then you put it onto a digital recording, which was presumably played out of a laptop in the theatre while the gramophone was playing, like turning, faking the playing of itself. I'm partly asking this because I think, especially what you were saying earlier, so many people are involved in the making of an opera, even on this scale. It is quite fascinating. We have to wind up rather soon. This is a bit of a rushed one because your original video was a couple of minutes shorter than what we've just shown. So I'm afraid I didn't allocate it quite enough time, but we'll crush into the next one. But a question from Elizabeth Dobbs, and we must ask because Elizabeth has been with Tete a Tete since our very first show. There were so many intriguing potential aspects to explore, like how do you know it's red? Might you expand the project in the way Yanni is considering with her opera? So will it have a future life and get a bit longer?
That's a good question. I think that's a question for me in 6 months. I think I've heard this music so many times that I think it would be hard for me to come into it now because it sort of feels like an object, like an impenetrable object. It like there was points in the rehearsal where I had forgotten I had written it. It felt like an opera sort of once you hear somebody interpret it time and time again over hours and hours of rehearsal, it becomes something that's not yours anymore. So I would need to take some time to think about that. But I definitely want to do another dystopian opera at some point.
Yeah, it's so, I think what's so good and something that works so well in as opera, but better than theatre, except possibly pantomime, is when you can have an absolutely horrible character. It's absolutely marvelous when somebody can be out and out vile and villainous. There's something really enjoyable about that. Anyway, talking of enjoyable, I'm a bit sad that I'm going to have to cut you all off in your prime, but I will because we have to go and get set the next watch party up. But thank you very much. Anyway, watch this space and congratulations on the district. Well done indeed. And thank you, audience. Bye.